bad operators, just bad doctors. It's a meme that people often throw around as a joke, but to be honest, it does have some merit to it. In Arknights, you don't need a super meta lineup to beat stages. As long as you are skilled enough, you can beat basically any stage with whatever operators you currently have. There is never a situation where a stage you are expected to clear would be completely impossible at your current options. To me, what makes an operator a good operator isn't if the operator can carry you through certain boss stages or is the best in its role. What makes an operator good is if the operator is capable of fulfilling the niche that it is designed for. So, as long as an operator can do its job effectively, even if it isn't the best option, it is a good operator, as any skilled player can use it successfully. With one exception. As much as I hate to admit it, Frostleaf is the only bad operator in Arknights, and I'm not going to repeat the exact same points that you've heard hundreds of times before. Her SP is bad, her uptime is bad. Instead, I'm going to try and explain to you what I think Frostleaf's main fundamental issue is. And that's that the way her kit is designed is naturally counterintuitive for lords. Now, before I say anything, I would like to say, I like the concept of Frostleaf. Unlike every other lord, Frostleaf is unique in that she is defensive and support-oriented, which I think is a really cool concept for a lord. The issue is, Hypergriff probably chose the worst way to implement it into an operator. Now, when I say support-oriented, I mean she is a crowd controller. Her kit is focused on reducing movement speed and binding targets. The thing is, both reducing movement speed and binding targets are completely counterintuitive for her subclass. Lords have 2 block and 3 tiles of forward range. This makes them useful for moderate area coverage while also being able to hold back enemies with their moderate defensive stats. So, a lot of the time, you're using a lord as a blocker that can also hit things in a unique fashion. The thing is with Frostleaf, slowing and binding things doesn't actually do anything if you're blocking something. And so, because of that, when Frostleaf is blocking something or is targeting something that is being blocked by someone else, she no longer has a unique kit. She is now basically a vanilla operator. Slowing or binding an immobile target doesn't do anything. So, the 3 tiles of range that she has where she is capable of affecting unblocked targets are the only tiles where Frostleaf is capable of crowd control, this area coverage expanding a bit if you can take advantage of her diagonals. This exact same thing happens during the downtime of Frostleaf's S2. Frostleaf doesn't have a talent that gives her a crowd control edge, so when you're waiting for the 50-second charge of her S2 to fill, you're left with a lord with below average DPS and no effective talents. So, it doesn't even really matter that Frostleaf has poor slow up time, or low ability charge, or a talent that downright hinders her effectiveness as a crowd controller. Her low range makes it difficult for you to utilize her slow and bind against non-blocked targets. The only way that she could be good with her current kit if she had over 100% uptime on her slow given by her S1, and her S2 could outperform Ethan in the bind department. Really, the only way you can make her kit good is to make her busted, and at that point, you're designing a 6-star, not a unique 4-star sub-archetype of lords. I really like Frostleaf, not just as a character, but as potential. I definitely think she could be a really well-designed lord if given a second look. Issue is, most people are more willing to write her off as a shitty meme, rather than trying to be constructive to her. I would prefer it if there were no bad operators, so being honest with my thoughts on Frostleaf is important when it comes to wanting improvement. If Frostleaf were to be changed, I think fixing her would be quite simple. Her main issue is that she is functionally useless against blocked targets, which are very common for lords to target, as they themselves are melee operators, who are often put behind other melee operators. So you need to give Frostleaf an element of crowd control that gives her a supporting edge against blocked targets. So, have her reduce attack speed alongside her movement speed debuff. If Frostleaf can reduce attack speed, then she becomes a defensive supporter who can boost the effective HP of the blocker of her target, which not only makes her very unique as a lord, but also complements her naturally decent survivability. Luckily for us, we have a status effect that is quite flavorful for Frostleaf: Cold. If Frostleaf inflicted cold on the same instance and for the same duration she inflicts her movement speed debuff, she ends up with dual use cases. Against unblocked enemies, enemies will have a harder time reaching your blockers. Against blocked enemies, enemies will have a harder time killing your blockers. Frostleaf essentially becomes a defensive supporter, akin to an abjurer in some abstract sense. This also works well given how her S2 is meant to function. We can remove her bind proc and instead just rely on her freezing the enemy with the second cold hit, which not only halts enemies in their tracks like her bind, but also prevents them from attacking fully if they are being blocked, or are sniping you from afar. With no other changes to Frostleaf, I feel this alone would turn her from the only bad operator in Arknights to decent at worst. I'm sure many people wouldn't be a fan of a defensive supporter, but I feel it would properly give Frostleaf the chance her kit design deserves. Also, with her module that will totally exist one day, just remove the attack speed reduction from her Elite 2 talent. She was far from busted at Elite 1, and even if you give her cold, it's not like her normal attack speed is game-breaking or anything. The only real issue with this that I haven't really cleared up is that Frostleaf will still be functionally vanilla during her S2 downtime. So to keep her unique during that downtime, maybe give her some kind of crowd control talent with her module, maybe making each attack reduce enemy movement speed by 25% for a second, or having a chance to inflict cold. Maybe make it an ambusher module kind of thing that passively reduces movement speed of all enemies in range. Just something that appeals to her operator identity. I like Frostleaf. I'm critical because I want her to be good. If you clicked on this video expecting some kind of epic Frostleaf destruction, then I'm sorry. I'm sure there's tons of videos out there that do nothing but tear her to absolute shreds. Me though, I just want things to be good. Thank you all for watching. I love you all and have a great day. Also, Silvergun, if you're watching this so you can laugh at me, I'm still waiting, man. You? Me? Live Crusher debate. I have all of this incriminating evidence against you that I can't use otherwise, so let's go, man. Let's fucking go.